And away we go.
And it is episode 31, part 1. That's Steve. I'm Al. And food of the day is Thundercloud subs. I got roast beef and avocado and I don't know what else, but it's a local chain. They're pretty good.
What do they call that one?
Roast beef and avocado.
Really? Is
yeah,
it new?
That's literally what they called it.
Is it new?
I don't know if it's new. I don't do Thundercloud a hell of a lot.
Why do I not recall a roast beef sandwich there?
I don't know.
I'm going to try that
Okay, next time. Yeah, and what do you have before we...
California Club.
California Club. Okay.
Can't go wrong, right?
And I figured we would get this one out of the way quickly because, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot to say about it, at least not a whole lot new. And that is the Iran situation, war. Let's just call it what it is, war. At this point, it is a war. We're not winning. It's not ending anytime soon. There was a chance early on that we could have just done some stuff and gotten out. That chance, I think, is pretty much gone. It doesn't look good for us. It really doesn't look good for us, mostly because it makes us look like the aggressors, which we are, and it makes us look like we have no clue what we're doing because we don't. And it's, I'm not sure, productively speaking, what else to say about it. But I felt like it's such a big deal that we can't not say something about it. So,
well, maybe you can at least say what the situation
okay, well,
the ongoing situation with
go ahead.
Strait of Hormuz
is that they are doing exactly what everybody and their dog said that they would do if somebody attacked them this way, which is they're using it as leverage. And basically saying we're going to selectively sometimes let some people through. Right now, I think they've got it closed off completely. In case you didn't know, it's where a good bulk of the oil comes through. And it's not that we get our oil from there, but OPEC controls prices. We don't. And so it therefore affects our price of oil as well as the price of a whole lot of other crap.
What about the ceasefire?
The ceasefire, the alleged ceasefire was a joke because ignoring whatever the U.S. is doing, Israel never stopped attacking Lebanon. That's one piece we know for sure, and that was supposed to be one. Oh, I do know something else that I was going to add about all of this, and there are all these little things that keep happening with Trump, where it's like, oh, he's repeating that pattern. He's repeating that pattern. If only, if only, if only. Well, the if only with this is the agreement that Obama had set up during his term, because I didn't look at that thing with a fine-tooth comb before, but if you look at it now, it addressed every single issue that is now happening with Iran. In other words, it said, if you do this, you're in trouble. If you do that, you're in trouble. All of the things that we're trying to get them to either do or stop doing, including the Strait of Hormuz that said that you cannot, do what they're doing with it. And so it's like if he hadn't torn that up, we would never ever have been in this situation. Yeah. It's just goddamn.
So that's something I was gonna be like, I don't know what to say about this, but I was gonna go into a little bit about that, and it's just like, what the fuck, Why? There's why did we do this? Because Israel said so? Because Pete Hegseth wants to start this holy war, this fucking Christian nationalist goon squad that he's assembled in the military? I think that's what it fucking is. I think it's these goons, Hegseth, is in his fucking ear, and
and Bibi Netanyahu is a huge part of it. That's
for two different reasons.
Yeah.
And for Trump, like I said, he's insane. So there's no telling what this man's going to do. Well, he can say one thing one week and do these next segments.
The funny thing is he seems to turn to and want to talk about the Epstein files to avoid the war, and then he'll go and do war stuff to avoid the Epstein files.
None of this makes sense.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with a guy that's completely off his rocker at this point, there is no making sense of anything this man is doing at this point. His projections are so insane. He has no sense of self.
Like what he did a couple days ago with the snuff film. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I mean, that's not a part of his projections. It sort of might be.
Maybe.
Everything that comes out of this man's mouth is something that he's done or doing. It's so bizarre. And if you understand what a pathological narcissist is and how they have no true sense of self, they have a grandiose false self, and that anything that's within their core self doesn't exist. It's simply a mirror. So if somebody penetrates the false self, they can't internalize the guilt and shame of what they actually are if confronted with reality. They'll project it back out. So when he says they're evil, vicious, this or that, that's what he is. That is his true self being projected outward. And you could just see everything that he says is a projection of his own stuff. Like, they're a fraud. Everything's a fraud. The man has been convicted of fraud. The man has 4,000 litigations against him, mostly for fraud. He had a fraudulent company for his school that was, he had to pay millions, tens of millions in fraud.
Right.
He is the fraud, and there is a part of the course,
and it's well documented, and it's not conspiracy by any stretch of the imagination.
He's the fraud. When he says Kamala's going to start a war with Iran, he's going to start the war with Iran. Every single thing is a projection of an empty core that is just nothing but a mirror that just shoots outward everything that he is. It's so wild, man. It's so bizarre to watch. So, so when you're talking about like what makes this guy tick, you can't, and I said this over a year ago, like, don't try to dissect. This isn't 3D sketch. This is nothing. The man is insane. He's absolutely insane. So, at a pathological level, that there's no rhyme or reason for anything that he's doing. Now, like I said, I think Hagg's breath, he wants this holy war, and I think these Christian nationalists want this holy war, right?
Right.
Netanyahu wants to bomb the shit out of Iran because they just want to do their colonial expansion. Israel has a right to exist. Everyone has a right to exist, but what are you talking about? The 1948 borders, the 1954, and there was Israelis existing there before the state of Israel was formed. It was called Palestine before then. I was watching this old movie. It was so funny because it was made in like 1948 or something, and it was about these. I never heard of this movie. It was really wild, man, because there's a movie called Ground Zero. It was made by a German about these kids, these orphans after World War II, and they were just wandering around. And that's a really, really dark version of that, right? Kind of reminiscent of like Bicycle Thief, that kind of movie, Bicycle Thieves. Where it's just kind of guerrilla filming. And this was sort of like that too, because it's just the ruins of Berlin, and they're kind of filming through there about these kids that were orphans. Some of them are from Eastern Europe, Russia. Some of them were from Germany. And there was tens of thousands of these kids, hundreds of thousands of them wandering around. So this movie was about that and how these people got together. But they even said it then, because the one kid was Jewish, and she's like, well, we can send him to Palestine. They didn't even call it Israel. They called it Palestine in the movie. Well, a lot of them are going to Palestine.
Wow.
And then people will say, Palestine didn't exist. What are you talking about? This movie just proved it.
Yeah.
They called it Palestine.
So
anyways, so this whole thing, they just, Israel has a right to exist. Israel wasn't there before 1954. What do you mean? In what border do they have a right to exist? And everyone has a right to exist. And so do Palestinians have a right to exist.
People have a right to exist.
Right.
Do states have a right to exist? I don't know. Maybe not.
Right.
But then you have to say, like you just did, based on what borders. Do they have the right to expand those borders? I don't know about that one.
Right. And so this whole argument is so insane because they're going to try to do this bullshit to you when you're trying to tell them, look, I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm anti-Zionism, I'm anti-imperialism, I'm anti-colonialism, I'm anti-fucking genocide and murder, I'm anti all the things that are happening there, and you can't demand land written from a book of fairy tales written 2,500 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, it's just stupid. So, but anyways, they want this war because this is their holy land and they deserve it and all this other shit, right? And they think they have the rights to this shit, and so they want that war for that reason. Hexeth wants the war because he wants to bring in the Christ, to bring in the end times and get rid of Israel in the final blow. But so that's, I think there might be something like that going on here.
I have one other,
but this doesn't make sense any other way. And I just want to get
sure.
right back to what you were saying, which was I was going to introduce was we had all this with fucking Obama's thing. So let's tear this up, bomb the shit of them, and then try to go back to what we had. But now what they're offering is way less than what we had, and Trump's like ready to take it. So basically, he tore up a good fucking document that was working, bombed the piss out of them, and then got something worse.
Yep. And he's trying to claim
and he's
like
trying
a win.
to
He's
make
trying
it
to
seem
claim
like a win.
Yeah.
So that'd be like having a nice house, blowing it up, and building a shack and say you won.
Well, but it's worse than that. I had another analogy based on what happened on Tuesday to the tariffs, and my point being that with a lot of these tariffs, he'll be like, oh, I'm going to do X, and then he'll either say he's not going to do the tariffs, or he'll say, oh, 5% instead of 20 or whatever. He'll walk it back. Well, the problem is that other countries have caught on, and so him walking something back doesn't get us back to where we were, because they're already going to take their trade somewhere else, or they're already going to ramp up their military the way that they're going to do in response. They're already going to continue to do whatever they're going to do as a response. They're not going to say, oh, you changed your mind? Well, it's all good. No, that's not happening.
Right. And we'll mention one more thing.
Sure. Go ahead.
And that is his response on Easter Sunday.
Oh, that was some fucking ridiculous garbage. God, that was insane.
So you want to tell?
Well, he among other things, he insulted Catholics, which I'm not Catholic. My wife used to be, but the point is that's a huge section of not only his supporters but of the U.S. It doesn't matter what you believe, but that's a huge number of people that you just gave the middle finger to for no reason, just randomly.
I'm not sure how he did that, maybe because of his rant, but I think what's more important is what he said.
Well, what else did he say?
He was going to bomb the.
Oh yeah. He basically claimed that he was going to genocide all of Iran just because he was having a bad day or something. I don't know. I mean, it really doesn't make any sense.
Is that what you were referring to as offending the?
Well, no, that was a different piece, but I don't remember it well enough to get into. So we can.
I don't know. Maybe he did say something.
But your point is
that's offensive to everybody.
But that's what came up on Tuesday is he had basically said, "Oh, I'm going to do all this stuff," and everybody was holding their breath, going, "Is he?" And
Tuesday he did nothing. He tacoed.
Yeah, he tacoed. Thankfully, he did taco, but he's getting just crazy enough that nobody feels safe enough assuming, oh well, he's kidding. Now he did kind of walk it back, but we just weren't. Nobody would have been too surprised if he'd actually hit the fucking button.
I think the man meant it when he said it.
Yeah.
But once again, this is the thing where the guy is insane. So when he said that, he might have meant
at that moment he meant
may have gone, like I said, to Hegsbreath and these other guys. The generals, they might have said, hey, ran it past them, or the generals themselves came and said, you can't do that.
Well, a lot of them did. I know that. Yeah.
I know a lot of people have resigned. Multiple generals, high-ranking generals have resigned. And my guess is that if he didn't ask, he might have been confronted and said, you can't say shit like that, dude, because we're not going to do that. And then he's, going to sit there because he can't make a command. If the generals say no, what's he going to do? What is he going to do? Get his ice army after the generals? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. I wouldn't put anything past him at this point.
Because, I mean, that's what it's getting to. I'm just completely fucking off the dome, and I could be completely wrong here and out of my mind, but I could see a scenario like that where he's like, well, let's just bomb him. And they're like, no, dude, we're not doing that. We're not doing it. Or they just strongly recommended against it. This is what's going to happen if you do that. And then he finally cooled off. But if they would have said yeah, or if he'd made that command and they said yeah, he would have probably went with it. He's insane.
One last semi-random bit. People don't know their fucking history. I was in a chat and somebody made the comment, well, the last time the U.S. used nukes, everybody else, they had nukes too when they were... And I was like, no, they didn't. You do not remember when the last time actually was, you fucking idiot. We were the only ones... And here's the other thing. I still can't wrap my head around the reason why we dropped the second one. The first one, okay, I've heard it too many times to dismiss it completely. But the second one, what the fuck, people? I know this was back in the fucking 40s, but still, what the fuck?
I think, look, there was probably multiple reasons. And I think there was a strong case to be made that was just a warning to Russia. The Japanese were ready to surrender from a lot of accounts, right? Yeah. Especially from the Russians. There were backdoor negotiations going on. They were completely defeated. They didn't want a land invasion. We didn't want a land invasion. It would have been a bloodbath for everyone. This probably did limit the amount of deaths in total, because it would have been in the millions if there was a land invasion on both sides. So, it was a matter of expediency as far as, okay, yeah, we'll kill a couple 100,000 immediately as opposed to 2 million, and we won't lose anybody, combined with this shows Russia you don't go past fucking Berlin, because if they had any
Thoughts
ideas,
along those lines, yeah.
or if they're gonna like try to annex anything else or do anything else, which and he was afraid we were gonna do the same and push him back, So this was a warning shot that we're fucking nuts. We have this bomb and we'll fucking use it.
But that's it. You cut what you said. Not only do we have the bomb, but yeah, we're all a little fucking nuts.
We're fucking nuts.
Yeah,
we didn't have to use it.
It wasn't. Hey, we're the good guys. It was we got the bigger stick and we're not afraid. We're not afraid to use it. Yeah,
and we used it when we absolutely probably did not have to.
Yeah.
Now there's a debate. Obviously, you're going to get into huge debates, especially with like people who are so gung ho America. I believe that was probably the leading factor of using it was as a warning shot.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we don't need.
And a lot of historians
too much down.
A lot of historians would agree with me. Some wouldn't. Some
Yeah.
would say, no, you got it wrong. They were just trying to end that war. A lot of people are saying, no. There was a lot of murmurs of all kinds of negotiations going on prior to those bombs being dropped, and that war was over, and that they were within weeks of signing an agreement to unconditional.
Well, and see, that's where on the second one, again, the first one I can see, but the second one is where I kind of hesitate. But the bottom line is, when we talk about the topic of nuclear weapons, keep in mind the U.S. is no longer the only ones with them, but we are the only ones who ever have used them, and so therefore our position is. It's not necessarily the moral high ground, is all I'm saying.
I'll say one last thing.
Yeah, good.
The United States of America is the only country in the world that's used one. The United States of America is the only country that's invaded as many countries as we have since the end of World War II, just simply for capitalist gain. We did not democratize anyone. Some places we even lost. We created and killed millions, tens of millions of people throughout the world. Over the course of 250 years, hundreds of millions possibly. From colonialism, talk about, European countries and the United States of America, and the hundreds of millions are dead. And Iran has killed probably, they've invaded no one. They've invaded no one. They've threatened no one. They have not expanded their borders since the Persian Empire.
Right. So this whole
this is all bullshit.
Yeah.
This is all bullshit. We're the aggressors. We're the violent ones, and we're the ones who are fucking scared. The scary motherfuckers with nukes.